Hello everyone, today we're going to discuss objects. Now, what is an object? It is anything I want it to be, really. But when we're coding, and what we're going to code here today is just going to be something very, very simple. The cool thing about objects is you can really make anything. Whatever I code, I have to have a certain couple of things that apply to it, but you can make anything you want as long as you can represent it in data. Let's take a rectangle, for example. If I were to make a rectangle, let's just do that. There we go. What represents this rectangle? How do I define it? Of course, if I can draw it on the screen, you can visually see it, but if we're just talking pure data behind all this, if you think back to geometry class or whatever, we've got two things that kind of define what a rectangle is, how big it is, and that sort of thing. We could add color to it if we wanted to. But generally it's going to be the size of it, right? The length and the width. So, whatever the length is here and whatever the width is. So, length and width. That's typically what we use to describe what that is. Now, if you want a kind of a real-world example, we could take most people have probably seen like games where it's a whole bunch of monsters or zombies coming at you, and they all look pretty similar, but they're essentially the same thing. Now, somebody did not go in and code individually each little zombie that's running around. What they coded was a zombie object. It has health and maybe graphics that looks animations and things on it. When you hit it, it gets hurt. You hit it enough, it'll play a little death animation and fall down. Now you may see 30 of them on the screen or whatever. Now if you hit one, it's its own separate object altogether. You hit another, it's a different separate object. Now, again, they just code what a zombie is, and then they just make copies. So each one is their own separate thing. That's the use of objects. Now, I've got a rectangle here, or at least I made a rectangle file. So we're going to go ahead and just define how a rectangle works. So the first thing we do is we have the word class, and I'll zoom in a little bit. So I'll just call it rectangle. Now I'm going to write the first thing here, and I'll explain it here in a minute, but def, so this is our function, init, self, comma, we talked about it had length and width, right? Okay. So what this is this is going to be our constructor. So I'm just going to go ahead and write the whole thing down first, and then I'll explain what it is. Length self dot width equals width. Okay. So what this is what's called a constructor. There we go. So whenever I create an object, in this case, let me say init. There we go. This init automatically runs. So when I say make a rectangle and I give it a name, I have to pass it two things. Now the self is just always there. It's referring to this object that's in this file. That's kind of a default there for all our functions. But these are the ones that really matter here. The two things that I'm going to pass are the length and the width, and when they get passed in here and it creates that thing, it's going to plug those values into it. So if I were to come over here and just, let's go with def, what else would we normally do? Probably get an area or perimeter, right? I'll use print area. Now, I would use get area if I were trying to return this value back. Print area just allows me to print it, so I'll call this print area, and all that we're going to do is just area equals. Now, if I were to say length times width, I'm actually going to get an error here, and I say print the area is comma area. I was running this code earlier and ran into some problems. Oh, and I'm missing my parentheses there. There we go. So I'm going to get another error rather. Or maybe I am not, apparently. What did I do differently here this time? Restart. Oh, I'm not. It's not like that. Not that I'm not getting areas, or rather, I'm not getting errors. I haven't made it yet. So let me go here. End print area, and that's going to be broken and not work, but that's okay. End class rectangle, and I don't have to have these. I'm just used to putting it in there, and I think it's a good separator. So now let's give ourselves a little space there. So I'm going to create a rectangle here. R1 equals, and in this case I'm just going to say rectangle, and I have to give it a length and a width, so comma 10, 5. Now if I were to do this and I run it, it's not going to do anything because I'm not printing anything. Now I could say print R1 dot length, print R1, which is what I called it, rectangle, dot width, because those are attributes on that object. So I can print the individual things that I put on it. You'll see like that. Now if I try to, and I'm not going to print the print area because it's already a function. So I just say whoop, print area. This is where I'm going to get a crash. See? And the issue with this is when I'm referring to variables, I have to have the little self dot in front of it. So now I should get 50 because 10 times 5 is 50. Oh, or I'll get another crash because I'm still not doing something right. We'll fix this in just a second here. Let's see. My error is still the same. Let's fix. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Let me redo. A couple times. All right. We'll paste. What did I mess up? Undo print area. I will figure out what our problem is here. And if I run this, no, we work. Self dot self dot self. Oh, I know what I forgot. I forgot the self here. But yes, this will give you an error if you leave that off too. So every function has to have that self in there. And if I were to run this, there we go. It tells me name's not defined, or length is not defined rather. I have to say self.length, self.width whenever I'm doing some kind of math like this. Specifically so it knows that the thing, the object's attributes that I've defined up here. So self.width, these are the attributes that I defined. So whenever I'm like doing math, I have to also have that self, which is means this rectangle's self. So if we wanted to return def get, I'll just call it perm instead of perimeter. I have to have that self here. And all I'm going to do is simply return self.length times, oh wait, 2 plus self.width times 2. And I'll put some parentheses around that, and hopefully that will work. And I'm going to print get perm. And let's see if we crash there or not. And of course we're going to crash because I didn't say R1 dot get perm. We'll do a quick test. There we go. That would be 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5. So now I've got some functions on this thing. I've defined what this is. I could add more stuff if I wanted to. But this is kind of the gist of what an object is. Rectangle is the simplest object you can pretty much make. If I wanted to, I could add maybe a draw function where we used some of Python's drawing capabilities and actually drew a rectangle that was this particular size. We could add in a color. So if we did that, we could also have the color of the rectangle pop up as well. So when it got drawn, I'd have a color. Now the nice thing about this is I can have more than one equals rectangle, and in this case, well, let's just put it up here next to this guy. Cut and paste. There we go. And we'll just call this a 5 and a 5, right? So this area should be 25, right? So if I said r2.print area, I should have two separate things here. Oh, wait, nope. I said R1, R2, there we go. We have 25, we have 50. So now I have created multiple objects based on this rectangle. So I could make maybe an array of these objects or a list of these objects, plug it in there. That's how you would see like a bunch of zombies, for example. I need 10 zombies, make a whole list of them, set them in separate positions. And then as they die off, you know, their health becomes 0 and they play a death animation or whatever. That's essentially how you would deal with those types of objects. And in most games, most programs, everything's an object. Everything you see in a game, from the sword you're holding to, you know, the little vase or something you're smashing, to the enemy you're hitting, they're an object that's somewhere in code. Somebody defined what they are and what they look like and what graphics files represents them, all those little things. So one of the, again, nice things about objects in general is you can literally make anything you want. If I want to make a character, well, character, what defines a character? Maybe he has strength, you know, health, attack, defense, you know, equipment. I can make another class for equipment and put that equipment on this object here. So you can actually put objects onto other objects. You can get really complicated if you want. Maybe a spaceship. Well, the spaceship has guns. Well, the gun is an object. The gun itself has ammunitions and other statistics on it. So you can equip that onto the spaceship, which is an object by itself, and then have it zoom around based on its stats, pew-pewing, whatever. But those are just some simple examples of how objects are kind of used. So that is your introduction into objects.